Today, I speak with Simone. She talks to me about going down the free birthing rabbit hole and choosing to birth her first child completely free of the medical system. And the straw that broke the camel's back for Simone, making her final decision to free birth, was when she witnessed her cat birth 7 of her kittens freely at home. Simone was very adamant that because it was only herself and her husband who conceived that baby, it was only necessary to have just the two of them present for the birth, a notion that I completely agree with. This is a beautiful story of Simone holding her boundaries to get the birth that she wanted with her first baby, and then to go on and birth her second child free of the medical system too. Have a listen to these beautiful stories and find inspiration in the strength that Simone holds when it comes to making decisions for her journey into motherhood. Hello, Simone. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to the Free Birthing in Color movement. I'm so grateful that you are here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, I'm very excited. We just had a really amazing chit chat before we started recording. And yeah, I'm so excited to hear your stories. So let's get straight into it. And the first question I want to ask you is, what is the ancestry and lineage that you're passing on to your children?
All right, so I am full Vietnamese. Both my parents are Vietnamese, and I was actually born in Vietnam. And so we moved out here, migrated out here when I was 3. So that's on my side of the spectrum, and then there's my partner's side, which is so his mother is German and Italian, Sicilian,
Oh,
and his father's side is Native American, Cherokee, Blackfoot, and African.
oh,
So my
wow.
children, my boys are a bunch of things.
All of it.
Yeah,
Wow,
all of
that's
it. Yeah,
amazing. Okay,
yeah.
cool. Thank you so much for sharing that.
hmm
Um, and then speaking of your boys, where does your motherhood journey begin?
Ooh, and when you asked me that pre-chat
Mm,
prior to recording, I was thinking, and it was just such a deep question
mhm,
because I feel like growing up, I never thought I would be a mother. Like I wasn't like against it and I
mm,
wasn't for it.
mhm,
Like if it happens, it happens. I wasn't very like, oh, I gotta have kids at, you know,
mhm,
this age, or I have to, I was totally against it. Like I don't want kids at all.
mhm,
Um, I feel like I feel like it's motherhood was bred into my DNA. Like
mhm,
when I had Enzo, my firstborn, when I became an actual mother,
mhm,
it was so easy for me. And I
mm,
was like, wow, like I was meant for this.
mm,
I was meant to be a mother. I was meant to like have children. So
mhm,
I had like, I guess motherhood was like in my blood, in
mhm.
my DNA, many years before I was even here. So
Wow.
I guess
Oh,
I don't know what to say, but I
no, that's
definitely like
beautiful.
love being a mother, and I love like this motherhood journey for sure.
Mhm. Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah,
That's so wonderful to hear. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because
yeah,
I haven't had any woman speak to the beginning of their motherhood journey in that way. So it's just, yeah, very beautiful, very poetic that that's
yeah.
how you
Thanks,
feel.
thanks. It's
Mhm.
fun. It's fun,
Mhm.
I guess.
Mhm. So then do you want to get into the story of this first pregnancy? Like how did that come
Yes,
about? What was your
yeah,
preconception like? How did you find out you were pregnant? All of those things?
yeah. I free both my kids.
Mhm.
My firstborn, it wasn't planned. It wasn't like a conscious conception or anything.
Mhm.
Um, well, I'm sure it's like subconsciously concepted, right?
Mhm.
So like consciously we weren't like happy, like trying for a baby. But I had a completely wild birth or wild pregnancy.
Mhm.
I let's rewind all that. Because I feel like my decision for free birthing came along, or that seed was planted years and years ago before I actually got pregnant.
Oh, wow.
I was probably like the last like person in my friends group to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my good friend, my best friend, had her children pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard her story, and her birth was pretty traumatic.
Okay.
And during her pregnancy, in order to support her, and because I knew nothing about like pregnancy, I knew nothing about birth, I knew nothing about babies. Like I wasn't really around babies, in that
Mm-hmm.
manner. Like I have younger cousins and stuff like that, but like to be really conscious about like birth work and things like that, I just felt like I had to be more supportive of her
Mm-hmm.
by researching what is birth work, what is birthing, what is like what it is to be like pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
So in my journey of researching and supporting my friend, I stumbled upon this movie called The Business of Being Born.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, I'm sure if I watch it again, I might have like some other like opinions about it now, or what I know now. I haven't like watched it since.
Mm-hmm.
But that movie kind of like implanted the seed
Yeah.
where I'm not ever gonna like have my baby in a hospital. Like that
Mm-hmm.
just sounds completely ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
So that was like my biggest thing, was like, if I ever had a baby, I'm gonna figure it out, or like have a midwife, have a doula, but not gonna be in a hospital.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so fast forward to my pregnancy, my first pregnancy, rather actually my second pregnancy. My first pregnancy, I actually decided to release that pregnancy. I was with the same person,
Mm-hmm.
but our relationship at that time was just like, it wasn't the best relationship emotionally, mentally.
Mm-hmm.
I actually end up going up solo to camp, took like a 3 or 4 day trip up in the mountains. I was living in Colorado at the time.
Okay.
Took a hike, and I really sat down with that soul and
Mm-hmm.
told it, which I think it was Enzo, my firstborn. I really think
Mm-hmm.
it's the same soul that just came back
Mm-hmm.
to me. But I sat with that soul, and I was like, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it spoke back to me saying like, I understood. And I'm
Oh,
getting emotional about it
me too. I'm
because
getting
I don't
tears
really
in
talk
my
about it
eyes.
at all. Like
So
this is
beautiful.
like the first time I actually like talk about it. So
Mm.
I got super emotional about that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it just told me, like Enzo just told me like, I'm I get it. I'll come back.
Mm.
And so fast forward to my pregnancy.
Oh.
Um, sorry, getting all
No,
emotional.
it's okay. I'm just like, oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my God.
Brought me back to that moment, which I haven't really expressed that at that moment to a lot of people. Like I don't speak about my
Mm.
abortion or my release of that pregnancy
Mm.
a lot. I talk about it, like I'm okay talking about like um that I released my pregnancy. Like I don't feel shameful about it, but like
Mm.
not to the extent where like I really sat down and
Yeah.
have a connection with um
Mm-hmm.
that soul.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I got pregnant, um and I was again going through the research with like, how does birth work, like what do I do. um Also, I didn't want to have a baby in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up midwives and doulas, setting up interviews and like emailing everybody. And I met up with one midwife, my first midwife interview, I guess. And like she was really, really sweet, but like I don't know, I just didn't have connection with
Mm-hmm.
her. And
Yeah.
the big red flag that that got presented was the fact that she didn't force me, but she said something along the lines of like, hey, you have to get your blood tested. the RH factor test in. I won't, but practically, I won't serve you. I won't be your midwife unless you get this test in.
Right.
And for me, I'm like, whoa, like you're not gonna serve women at all if I like don't follow your your rules, like that's weird.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, wow, I'm not gonna do that. So I again went back home, researched, is it even like necessary? Like, do I have to have this test? Because it was like, what is it? So like, what is it that's so important that I have to have this test in order for this midwife to, so I can be a client of this midwife? And I think that I got really in a big rabbit hole of like searching, and then I realized like there's no need for anybody really. There's no need for a midwife really. And I think I stumbled upon a blog or something. Maybe it was Yolanda Harris Clark's blog or something, but the term free birth came along in my research, and I'm like, oh, this is a thing. Like, I can do it on my own, because I already had that thought, like, I'm not gonna have a midwife, I'm not gonna have a doula. Like, I knew I'm gonna do it, but like I never like set in my brain until like that terminology, like that word free birth, like set into my brain. And prior to all this, and not prior, but like during this research, during this time of like finding exactly what to do with my birth, my cat was pregnant and had 7 kittens on her own.
Oh, yeah.
And that was another big indicator, like, wow, like she could do it. Like, she was domesticated. She thinks she's human because she, like, we got her as an infant, abandoned by her mother. We had to bottle feed her. We had to like stimulate her in order for her to poop. Like, she was probably like a few days old when we got her.
Okay.
And for me to see a cat that is very domesticated, with like very comfortable with humans, to do such a natural thing without my help at all. Literally, I got a little box and she had her kittens, 7 of them, ate the placenta, all of it and everything. And I just looked at her. I was like, wow. Like,
yeah.
that was like, wow, like a cat can do that. Deers can do it. Bears can do it. Moose can do it. Like, what are we? Like, we're humans too. Like, we're animals too. Like, we're no better than these animals just because we got thumbs and we can like talk and communicate and, type on the computer. Like, we're not this, like,
we're not that different.
We're not that different.
Yeah.
So thank you, June. Thank you for my cat. That, like, she gave me the inspiration, really, the push to like have my baby how I wanted to have my baby, And when I was pregnant, going through this journey of research and knowing exactly like what I want, I didn't tell anybody until like maybe 4 months. I made a point where like I need to know exactly what I'm doing before I tell everybody that I was pregnant, just because I just wanted to know what I wanted to do before, like, and make that decision on my own, instead of like someone telling me like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. I just want to come into the conclusion on my own. And that was really something I was adamant about. Like, I just wanted to do it on my own, obviously with the support of my partner, my husband.
And how did he feel about this idea of yours?
It was great. Like, once, and I'm also very, very stubborn. So like, once I set an idea, like once I already made my choice, I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, try to stop me.
I love that.
I was very adamant of doing this on my own, and doing it by myself. And also like the thought of like we conceived this baby alone. Like, we didn't have the doors open while we were having sex. Like, we didn't have like people come watch me and my like partner conceive the baby. So
Mm-hmm.
why are we bringing everybody into the sacred space while we're having the baby? It's just like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me.
I love how you put it in that way. That's so beautiful. It's so true that like this relationship between you and your partner and how you're bringing your baby in is so special that it really should be between the two of you because you made the baby just the two of you. So it
Yeah,
only makes sense to continue that on and, bring the baby into this world and go through that pregnancy journey, really. Obviously, you can have support of other family and friends, but yeah, I love how you say that. Like, we made the baby, just the two of us, and we're going through the pregnancy and the decision making and the journey, just the two of us. That's,
yeah. And it
yeah.
should be like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I um when I announced I was pregnant and announced how we're gonna have the baby,
Hmm.
we didn't get much support with our
Okay.
family.
Hmm.
And so we had, I'm not gonna go into the details, but we had um things come up with the family that made
Hmm.
us choose to go down to Mexico to have the baby,
Okay. Wow.
where things are a little bit more normal to have
Hmm.
such birth like that.
Right.
And 2 years prior to conceiving the baby, we were just like, no kids. We were on a random trip to Mexico. We drove down to Mexico, and on
Mhm.
our way to Mexico City, we stopped by this little super cute town called San Miguel de Allende. Yeah,
Ah, yeah.
with the town. Like, if anybody wants to go, like, go to San Miguel de Allende. Like,
Hmm.
beautiful, like,
Yes, I've heard of that.
amazing town. We just fell in love with that city, and we kept thinking about it.
Hmm.
And so when we decided to go to Mexico, we are like, let's go. Like, let's
Hmm.
just go to San Miguel.
Hmm.
Let's do it. So we end up going down there. We drove down there. The Airbnb that we rented
Hmm.
um 2 years prior, the main house was available to rent.
Wow.
It was that exact same day that we got there. So it like worked out perfectly. We're like
Whoa. Yeah.
in the same house or the same place that we were there 2 years ago. We love that land. It's on a sustainable little ranch.
Mm.
Everything's off grid.
Mm.
We got water from the rain, and it was just like magical. Like
Wow.
the fact
Yeah.
that we were there, we kind of took that risk, and everything just lined up perfectly.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, like the day that I was in labor was, what's funny. The day that we Enzo was coming, it was, I think, the day before. I was walking. It's a walkable town. Like, you can walk anywhere in the city, but I
Hmm.
was just having one of those days where like I was seeing some friends and whatnot, and I was just walking the entire day. And anytime I had like big walks like that,
Hmm.
I get big contractions the
Hmm.
next day. So I was having these big contractions throughout the day, and I wasn't
Mm.
thinking anything of it. Midnight rolls around, I couldn't sleep. My contractions got a little heavier, but I wasn't
Oh,
thinking about anything.
Simone, before
Yeah.
you get into the birth, can I just
Okay.
ask you, in that pregnancy journey, because you said you were having a wild pregnancy, what
Mhm.
kind of things like did you do to care for yourself, or like did you do any like spiritual work, or did you go see chiropractors or get massages? Like, how did that wild pregnancy look for you as a first time?
Yeah. So we didn't do any ultrasounds. We didn't do
Hmm.
anything. I guess the only thing we did was get a pregnancy test, like
Yeah.
from Walmart or whatever, Kroger's or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
And I didn't even do that to my second pregnancy. I was just knew that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So that's like the only outside source, I guess, whatever.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm a herbalist. So
Mhm.
I drank a lot of herbal teas, nourishing teas,
Mm.
and ate really rich, nourishing foods.
Yeah.
We were really blessed. We're living in Mexico that we can grow our own food.
Hmm.
So we got a ton of like really fresh food from our garden.
Hmm.
And we knew a local butcher that that would basically gave us free bones, like bone marrow,
Oh,
because
wow.
and I'm like, I want some of those goody fatness.
Yeah.
So he practically gave us the bones for free, and I ate a bunch of bone marrow, like a
Mm,
lot, like and it, like oh, was my favorite thing, like on
mm.
sourdough toast.
Wow.
Bone. I mean, even talking about it makes me suck.
I
Yeah,
love
get me
that.
excited. But yeah, I ate a bunch of like really nourishing food,
Yeah.
rich nourishing food. I cook a lot. I love cooking.
Okay.
Um,
Mm.
Lots of salmon, a lot of like eggs, fresh eggs,
Mm.
um, a lot of great herbs. Like I had a blend that I made with nettle, red raspberry, oat straw, alfalfa, and moringa that
Oh,
I
yeah.
practically drink that almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
Days that I get sick of it because like drinking it every day can, you want to
Mm-hmm.
change.
Yeah.
Um, I will powder it and put it in my smoothie.
Okay.
What else did I do? Oh, Kundalini. I discovered Kundalini yoga
Mm.
during my
Okay.
first pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of yoga. And since we like lived on a sustainable off-grid farm, like farm, not ranch, um, I was I spent a lot of time outside. I spent a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time gardening. I spent
Mm.
a lot of time just like digging in the dirt or sitting outside,
Mm.
nourished by the sun. And I didn't have any family or friends around,
Mm.
I mean, I made friends there, but like close friends or anything. But it was just like they just as just very, what's the word I'm looking for? It was just me
Mm-hmm.
and my partner.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really nourishing, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because um I didn't get a lot of like outside opinions
Yeah.
thrown at me all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, when I went out, like I shouldn't say that because when I did go out like to the flea market, there's this one time where
Mm-hmm.
this lady approached me. I was pretty pregnant at the time. I had a big belly. And she did say something along the lines where like, what's your like birth plan? What are you doing? And I told her like, I'm gonna have free birth. That's what I'm gonna do.
Mm.
And she basically said, you're reckless, like all these negative things, like you're
Mm.
crazy for having it, like you're gonna die,
Oh my
like you're
gosh.
pain, like your baby's gonna die. And I literally looked at her and I was like, okay, well, I'm not afraid of dying,
Mm.
and I'm not afraid that the potential of like my baby dying. Like, and I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's a big thing I want to point out to listeners is that like it's not like I decided a free birth and it's going to be rainbows and butterflies. I didn't like decided like this is the cool thing to do or like
Mm-hmm.
this is the trend or whatever. Like I
Mm-hmm.
decided this because you know of X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the dark, like I sat down with my husband and talked to him like, look, there's potential that I might die. There's potential that the baby might die. There's potential of like lots of complications. Like
Mm-hmm.
we didn't think about, like we had to like go through that emotionally
Yeah.
before we like absolutely made that decision and be comfortable with all that emotions, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. You
Um
built up a
so
really great relationship with the true reality of life and death, you know?
yes,
That's what it
yeah,
sounds like. You two came to that. You didn't let that possibility or potentiality be a fear of stopping you from doing something that would just happen no matter what, you know?
right.
Because a
Yeah,
baby can die with a midwife present, a baby can die in a hospital, a baby can die if you're at home by yourself, a baby, like, it doesn't matter. And a mother can die at any stage in life,
exactly.
you know? And it sounds like you both really took that in and were like, okay, we understand that this is a part of the whole continuum of life, death, rebirth, and could come into acceptance with that.
Exactly. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's also like we understand there's the beautiful side of birth, and then there's the not necessarily dark side of birth, but like
It's
there's
just the
that side.
shadow side,
Just
and
that side.
it's
It's
just
just
as
that side.
important.
And
Yeah.
we're okay with both sides of
Mhm.
it.
I love that.
Yeah. And so yeah, and we met up with a midwife, or I shouldn't say a midwife because she wasn't practicing, but Allison, she's wonderful. She is a birth worker, and she is the first person that when I met up with her, just so we can like, because we're still, when we moved down to Mexico, we still have like the decision of like, should we have a midwife? And we're still going through like the questioning. So we end up going and meeting up with Allison, who was a birth worker. And she, when I expressed my desire of having a free birth, she was like, go for it. Like, she didn't stop me. She didn't say any negative fears or like any projected anything that was negative. She was very supportive. And so I think we had like I don't know, like a 4-hour session with her where where we talked about our emotions, basically therapy for both both for me and like my husband.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. The one thing she did say that like kind of like lit a light bulb, and both for me and for my partner, was that she said that babies can be born whether you're consciously awake or in a coma.
Yeah.
It's just like your body is gonna do it no matter what. So for me, it's like, okay, it's go time now. You know, like it's not my decision really. It's really the baby's decision to come in this realm whenever it wants to. And I can't stop that, you know, nobody can stop that. So just let that flow and let that be.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful.
So yeah, yeah. So that's what happened. And then also like during pregnancy, I listened to the Free Birth Society podcast. I also listened to Indie Birth podcasts as well, listen to other women's stories that help inspire me. And one of the podcasts in Free Birth Society was Nicole, where we mentioned earlier. She lives in Mexico, and I heard her story. Actually, I was living in Ohio at that point. We didn't move to Mexico quite yet. And I heard that story. And that also, like, she was really influential in my birth decision as well. Because I hit Emily up from Free Birth Society, and I asked her, I was like, hey, could you give me that girl's information? Like, she had a baby in Mexico. Like, I want to know like the logistics, and not necessarily like how to birth. It's just like the logistics of things. Like, how do you get like a birth certificate? Like, what does that, you like, you know, all the logistical paperwork type of things. And Emily did. I hit her up and emailed her, and she gave me all the information that I needed, and she was super supportive. I love her so much. And yeah, so when we were in Mexico, this is another funny thing. When we moved down to Mexico, we met one of her friends in San Miguel. We didn't know it was her friend. We were just talking about like what our decision, like what we're going to do with our, like what we decided to do. And I, you know, I'm getting all crazy right now. We talked, and we were telling our story about like how we're gonna birth the baby and whatnot. And she was like, oh, I have a friend that did that, and her name is Nicole. And I was like, is it the same girl? Like, and it was, and it was just, I don't know, it's just a key moment in my story that like all these connection and reassured me that I was in the right place.
Exactly. I was just gonna say.
Randomly, that I met this, you know, and I didn't met Nicole. We were just communicating through email. I met her friend randomly, you know, at the same moment she told me about Nicole. It was just, I don't know, it's just like all these dots connecting, and
it's the universe aligning you.
Absolutely. And yeah, so what are we gonna say? Like I had Enzo, let's see. So the day before I had him, I was walking a lot through the city, through the town, and I was having all these big contractions. And I wasn't thinking anything of it. He came 3 weeks early, by the way.
Okay.
So we weren't prepared for
Mm.
anything. Um, my water broke at 5 o'clock in the morning. I started to have bigger contractions, and then I knew like the baby wasn't gonna come right away. So I kind of let my husband sleep and relax, and like I didn't bother to wake him up because I knew like he should be like fully present to help me out later.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I wasn't keeping track of time, but eventually he woke up and came. I was going in between the bathroom and the living room. Um and he came in while I was like on the toilet, and he's like, is it time? Like, is it the baby coming? Like, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's coming. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know when, but it's coming. And he's like, he started to panic. I look at him in the eyes. I'm like, it's okay. Things are fine. Um, we didn't have any towels ready. We didn't like, our propane tank was low. Like, I think we were out of propane. All these things. I planned on like ordering a birthing tub. We
Oh,
didn't get
yeah.
anything planned.
Mm.
Which was fine, which was great. So my next door neighbor, he heard that like I was in labor. He brought this huge like feeding tub, and he's like, "Do you want me to like for animals, like a
Yeah.
feed like a trough for
Ah.
animals?" Do you want me to like fill this up? Like, I'm gonna get
Mm.
like the guy to bring in the propane tank and we'll heat up the water. Do you want me to fill this up? And at
Oh
that
my
moment, he's like,
gosh.
no, I don't want, like, I didn't want any of that. Like, it's just too
Mm.
complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Both him and my husband were running around trying to figure things out, trying to like do laundry, all these things, to the
Mm-hmm.
point where like my contractions stopped because I was like
Oh yeah.
stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I told Sean, I told my partner, I was like, dude, you need to just slow down,
Mm-hmm.
stop. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
stressing me out. My
Mm-hmm.
contractions stop because I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel safe, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Um, I don't feel like, you relax or anything. And he kind of backed off, was salty for a bit, but he knew, you know? And he backed off and my contractions started up again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was laying down on the bed. He dragged a mattress to the living room, and I was laying down on the mattress in the living room. And he was like, "Do you want to go outside?" I set up a blanket out there. It's really nice. Like, it's been cloudy the entire week, and
Mm-hmm.
today happened to be, or that day happened to be, really sunny. So he's like, "Do you want to go and sunbathe and like
Mm-hmm.
relax outside?" I set up pillows and the tears out there and everything. And I was
Oh.
like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And I
Mm.
took like a little nap out there, and then my contraction started up again.
Mm-hmm.
And instantly or intuitively, I just got on all fours.
Mm.
And I knew it was time. Like, I knew it was like time to have the baby. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like sitting out on the patio on his computer, like kind of like watching over me. And he
Mm-hmm.
saw me like getting on all fours, and he's like jumped up, all giddy. I can still like picture him, and he was like, "It's time, like it's go time," or something along those lines. But he was like super giddy.
Mm.
Uh, and he he set up the phones and stuff like that, to
Mm.
record the session. And I I remember having him and just laying down in on the pillow, the sun shining on me outside, and the looking up and the trees, the leaves on the tree trickling,
Mhm.
and it was just like perfect. It was just me and him.
So you birthed your son when you were on all fours?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Oh.
Um, yeah, and moments later, I had the placenta, and we were just sitting there, just with the little boy, in my arms, and it was just so magical. It was just
Yeah.
so perfect,
That
in
sounds,
every
yeah.
way.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and we had a great postpartum. In Mexico, there's a thing called like 40 days. I forget the name, like
The
some
quarantina.
yeah, the quarantine for 40 days. And they really respected that. My neighbors would like peek their head in and like visit me and see the baby, but like it wasn't like them lingering around or anything. They really respect that time, whether it's for the mother and for the baby. Um, and during that time, my husband and my next door neighbor, he and him built a temescal, like a sweat lodge.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and so on the 30th day, it was so Enzo was born on the full moon. So the next full moon, we had a ceremony in the sweat lodge. Yeah, and it was just so awesome. I had him holding him while we're all sweating, singing songs, and
Oh,
um,
that
yeah,
sounds
it
so lovely.
was so magical and so wonderful. And yeah, and then my second born, he was in the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Magical still. It's so funny because Enzo, my firstborn, he's like, yeah, I when people ask like where he's from, he's like, yeah, I'm from Mexico. Um and then he was say like, oh, my brother's from the bathroom.
Oh, that's so cute.
So but um but he's from the bathroom, but
Oh.
he's been so fast. Like I did the same while pregnancy, did the same thing, drank my tea, ate really nourishing food. It
Was
was a little
this,
bit more challenging with my second one, because I
sorry,
had
were
go ahead.
you still in Mexico or did you go back to the
Oh, we
States
moved back
after?
to Ohio
Okay, you moved
at
back.
this time. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were in the States this time when
Okay.
I had my second one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I did the same while pregnancy. I knew I was pregnant. I didn't even like do the, I didn't do the testing or anything. I was like, I did it once, like I'm gonna do it again. It's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna be as magical and as it was during COVID, so we were like shut down, so like we couldn't go anywhere. I thought about like, oh, we should like have another like abroad birth and be outside and all this stuff, but like I also didn't care, and so I he came so fast. I had contractions. I wasn't prepared. We're not prepared. Not prepared people. But he came like 45 minutes after like my contraction started.
Wow.
Um,
That's
yes.
quick.
It's like my vision when I had it, like when I was pregnant, I was like, okay, I wanted him, I wanted to have him in the living room with a fire, because he was born in November. So I was like, it's gonna be nice and cozy. I want the fire on. I want to like have him next to the fire and whatnot. But he came so fast. He
Wow.
didn't have time to do any of that. I had my contractions. Again, I was in the bathroom. My husband woke up and said the same thing. He was like, is the baby coming? I'm like, yep, it's time. And my mucus plug, I felt my mucus plug, and then I felt him, like his head literally like shift his way down the canal. And that's when I was like, ooh, okay.
Wow.
Because like I lost my mucus plug maybe like a week or two with Enzo, my first one.
Okay.
And this time my water didn't break. I didn't lose my mucus plug. So I was like, okay, I'm having strong contractions. But like when I felt his head like wiggle down my canal, I was like, whoa, like it's time. Like,
Wow.
and I was getting really cold.
Mm.
And so Sean, he asked me if I wanted a bath, like to warm my body up, and he draw the bath. And I was sitting in the bathtub, and my contractions got bigger and bigger. And he was downstairs, probably making tea or setting the fire up or something. But I literally was like, "Sean, come back!" Like, And Sean, if you know my husband, he's very cool as a cucumber, like so chill, nothing ever bothers him, like always so calm. Even like during all like fights and stuff like that, he's always so calm, which irritates. I'm the one like screaming and like yelling and all these things, but he's always so calm. Nothing bothers him. So he's like walking up the steps all slowly. It's very calm. He's like, what? What do you want? I'm like, the baby's coming. And he was like, yeah, right, whatever. And so woke up. And so he went across the hall and to grab Enzo, and I'm like, Sean, the baby's coming. The next contraction, he literally just slipped out like out of me. And they both ran to the bathroom. Enzo stared at me like, what is going on? But he's seen like his birth videos before. He knows what's going on. He just like probably in shock because he just woke up.
Yeah,
and
totally.
like, okay. And he just walked out the door. And Sean's like, oh my God, here's the baby. Like ran out somewhere to grab the phone to take a picture of me. We didn't get any like videos of him. Like it came so fast, but like his head was up and moving, like he was looking around, like he didn't. It's funny because like he didn't. I think he was up for like a couple of hours. I think, at least. With Enzo, like I had him and he started to nurse right away and he fell right asleep. With Ether, like I nursed him a little bit, but he was like up, like his neck was moving. He was like up and ready to do something. But yeah, like it was both of them were just easy peasy,
And what about the placenta for the second baby? Did it come out as quick as the first?
Just the same. I think it was, I don't know, 15. I don't know. Time was really like not a concept for me when I was both time. Like I don't know. Like I know like when I had my baby, just because our phone imprinted the time on our phone. But like I don't know, probably like 20 minutes after.
Okay, yeah.
30 minutes, I don't know. I
It
don't know.
was fairly quick, yeah.
Yeah, but we when we cut the cord when the cord was cold. Both times we waited well past like time. It was probably like an hour and a half. We were just nourishing, and like we were just like nurturing, skin to skin, all the things with the baby. We were just enjoying the moment. Like we weren't thinking about the placenta at all. Like we knew like that's gonna happen when it happens, with both babies. We were just like in bliss at that moment with the baby. And so we got like really sharp sewing scissors both times, sanitized it and clamped the cord and cut it. My husband cut it. And I processed both placenta, dried it out. Well, I sectioned it. I kept some raw, to freeze, and then I kept some for drying, and then I took one big piece for a tincture.
Oh wow, you tinctured it.
3 things, and then obviously I did like the cord, by drying up the cord, the spiral, and so that's with the placenta.
That's so beautiful. I haven't had anyone that I've spoken with yet that's said that they've tinctured their placenta before, and I've heard of women doing that, but you're the first that I like know that's done that. I think that's such a beautiful ritual to do with placentas. I've been kind of thinking to do that with mine
It's
when
nice.
the time comes. That I love that.
It's nice because so I took the raw placenta and I put it in my smoothie and consumed that.
Okay.
And I also consumed the dry placenta. I powdered it up and just put that in my smoothie. And the tincture I did actually take. And so we have like this little preserved like placenta. maybe one
Mm-hmm.
day I'll take it if I really need the extra nutrients. But like, it's kind of pretty just being in like a little bottle,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, I read this book. I can't remember what it's called. It's a book about the placenta, and it's maybe it's placenta. No, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's such a beautiful book. And it talks about how different cultures, what they do with the placentas. And in one of them, they tincture the placenta and then the mother uses it during menopause. So she's
Mm.
going through that stage of her female continuum. She takes the placenta tincture and it's supposed to ease those symptoms. And
Oh.
then I've also heard that women who tincture their placentas when their children get a little bit older and there's kind of, strife and like disagreement between the mother and the child and that kind of butting heads, she'll take a little bit of her placenta tincture of that, whichever baby that is. So if there's multiple children, she'll take the tincture of the placenta from that child, and it's supposed to kind of like smooth out that really sticky energy between
Oh.
that mother and child. And I always just thought, wow, that's so cool. It's like this
That-
beautiful little thing that you have in your pocket that you can always just use because it never goes bad because it's in the alcohol.
Yeah,
So that's why I was like, maybe
that's
I'll try
awesome.
that.
I
Yeah.
heard that before. I heard that we can give the tinctures to children when they're really sick, like
Okay.
when they're not feeling really well, and that helps
Mm.
boost their immunity. But I
Ah.
never heard taking it for menopause and like for spiritual like reconnection of with the church.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
I know.
Yeah, forever now.
Yeah.
Um, well, I was going to do it anyways, but like that's
Mm.
just I don't know. That's just even more of a reason why we should do that more.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah.
is really crazy because I processed one of my friend's placenta.
Hmm.
Um, and she had a hospital birth. She asked for the placenta.
Mm.
And when she gave me the placenta, it was in this container
Mm.
and it was labeled, but like all over it, it was labeled biohazard.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, biohazard?
Isn't
A
that
placenta?
crazy? Yeah.
That was mind blowing to me. Like I never, like I guess I never knew like what they. I mean, obviously I do know what they do with the
Mhm.
placenta, but like to receive this container that
Mhm.
has huge stickers of biohazard on it, just like
Mhm.
whoa, like
Yeah. Yeah.
take
It's
it back a
it's
little
just
bit.
it's insane how, yeah, they just like they literally don't care about it and they just don't put any what's the word, reverence into the
Yeah,
placenta as it should be. It shouldn't be labeled biohazard. It should be labeled like magical, sacred
yeah.
organ, like grandmother of this baby, don't just
Or just their names or something, but like
yeah.
I feel like biohazard is like some kind of chemical. Like I think of like some crazy like chemical that will like blow up or like
Yeah. And
disintegrate like
it puts
everything,
such
you know?
a yeah, and it puts such an ugly like connotation onto it.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it was
Aw.
crazy.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, your stories are so beautiful and like, yeah, you were just in your flow, you were in your element. I love how you and your partner just went down to Mexico for your first baby and, the stars aligned and you just got connected in all the right places and you had such a beautiful birth outside as well. When you
Yeah.
were describing that, you were lying on the blanket under the trees, looking at the leaves. I was just like, oh, that just sounds so magical and dreamy. And
It's so great. It's so
wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's just, yeah, such beautiful stories. And especially as a first time mother, being so sure in how you wanted to bring your baby in the first time and knowing that, like, the first time I'm going to do it in the way I want to, and nothing is going to stop me from that
yeah.
is just
I
so.
just feel like I was very adamant because I'm knowing me, I'm just a people pleaser.
Mm,
And I just knew that like if I had other people in my space while in labor, I feel like I would just want to cater towards them, you know?
yeah.
Even if it was a midwife or like I was even catering towards like my husband, you know, like I can't imagine a room full of like people watching me. I would just want to cater them and make sure they're okay instead of like
Mm-hmm.
really worrying about myself, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just like another thing that like I don't need to do that. It's about me right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm okay with that. Like um to say that, you know.
Yeah, and that's great that you had that awareness within yourself, because there's so many women that are people pleasers and would still just, do what their husband wants, go and see the midwife, have her there, listen to her, do what the mother-in-law or her mother wants her to do, that they think is safest for her. And then her birth kind of explodes and becomes a situation where it was traumatic and all these things happened to her that she didn't want because she was trying to make other people happy.
Yes, yes.
Whereas you were just like, nope, I know that that's where it could go, but I'm choosing myself over everyone
Yeah.
else. And then you had this amazing experience birthing both of your children.
Yeah, and I feel like if anything goes wrong, it's on me instead of like living with like the resentment of like
Mm,
my mother-in-law did this or like my
mhm.
wife did this or like my doctor did this to me. Like instead of like putting the blame on them if something did go wrong,
Yeah,
I just knew that like I'm full on like it's my full on responsibility, whether it's good or bad, you know.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Did you
Yeah.
have anything else that you wanted to share about your births, your pregnancy journeys, your
Oh,
postpartum
I
time?
don't know.
Oh, I have a question I meant to
Yeah.
ask. Your breastfeeding journeys, how was that with your children?
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
So they, I didn't have any like it was wonderful. Like I didn't have any problems at all.
Okay.
Um, except for like when I get like engorged and stuff like that. But I never like had it to the point where like I had you know, any illnesses or anything like that. I
Okay.
really enjoy my my breastfeeding journey.
Okay.
With Enzo, I missed him till 2.
Mhm.
I kind of was like, if they have teeth and if they're talking, if they are communicative, that's when I'm gonna slowly like,
Mm.
wean them off.
Okay.
And it was like what a little after he turned 2 and he was ready. And I sat down with him and said, like, we're both ready. And
Mm.
it was wonderful. With Ether, I wasn't as ready because he practically weaned himself off, which I'm glad he decided that on his own. I didn't
Mhm.
on him or anything like that. Um, but it was harder on me emotionally because I wasn't ready.
Oh,
Um, so he weaned himself off around like 20 months. I
okay.
was hoping to like go till he was 2 again.
Mm.
Um, but he weaned himself off. He had his thumb and he like loved to be held.
Mm.
And that was okay with
Mm.
him. He went a day without nursing, and then it was like 2 days, and then it was 3 days, and then 6 days, and whatever.
Mm.
Like he just gradually did it on his own until like
Mhm.
just stopped.
It was done.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. It was great. Yeah, again, like eating really nourishing food really helped.
Mhm.
Um, drinking a lot of nourishing teas, um, and eating like nourishing soups. I think my postpartum with Ether, my second one, was a little bit more challenging
Okay.
just because I had him in November and in the middle of lockdown.
Mhm.
And I mean, I guess COVID, the lockdown didn't really affect us as much in a way where like we still go outside, but it was cold. With
Mhm.
Enzo, we were in Mexico. I was able to like go outside and garden, and I had him on my back, and
Mhm.
I could put him down on a little blanket, and he could like bask in the sun while I did my thing.
Yeah.
Um, and with Ether, I just felt more confined.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
also um had my in-laws around. Um, and my mom and dad came for like and stayed with us for a month to help out. But I think it was just so much, you
Mhm.
know. with people around. I think with Enzo, like I said, I didn't have any family around, so it was just me and him and my husband, and my neighbors will pop in once in a while, but it wasn't like all this commotion, and I felt like it was just more people, which like I love them. Like I obviously having a baby, a newborn, it's really exciting, but sometimes it just is a lot for me. And funny thing about that is that so when I had Ether, um a few hours later my sister-in-law came. I just had like this memory a couple of weeks ago when we were driving to pick blueberries, but this memory just popped up. And I wasn't thinking about it, but my sister-in-law came and um wanted to see the baby after. And I love my sister, like we're super close. But I think, you see a newborn, you get excited. I get it. She picked up Ether and held him and was walking around in the room. I was there, but I had this rage in my body, like this person picking up my baby. And I totally trust her. Like, like I love my sister-in-law, but like, wow, I had this huge rage in my body. Like, how could this like person like just abruptly pick up my baby like that? Like that's like I felt like mama bear style. Like I wanted to attack her. But she's my sister-in-law, and I knew she wouldn't do anything to my baby. But like I just, when we were driving to to pick blueberries, I had that thought. I was like, whoa, like I can't imagine having a baby in the hospital. I can't imagine like even like a midwife touching my baby, like my sister-in-law, like having that same rage. Like imagine like being in the hospital, confined to like this hospital bed, and this man or this woman with gloves taking my baby off to somewhere like I can't see him. Like, whoa.
But I think though, and I'm not speaking for all women that have birthed in the hospital, and I don't have that experience, but I think because of the whole hospital birth situation, when you go in there and you've already consciously chosen to birth in hospital, you've already gone through this, back and forth of the prenatal appointments with your provider, whether it be medical midwife or the OB or hospital staff. By that point, once your baby is there, like they've already worn you down so much and put that the authority in their hands and taken it from you, that by the time you have your baby and it's a newborn and somebody's just picking up your child and like, oh, we're taking them for tests, we're doing this, we're doing that, most women are just kind of agreeable to it because they've already just been so beaten down that it's nothing to them. Whereas you have been so fiercely protective of your birth space, your pregnancy, you had that connection with your baby, and then you birthed that home in such a beautiful way that, that mothering instinct has been just growing and developing in yourself for so long that, seeing someone, even if it is someone you love so much, pick up your baby, it's just like, hey, all the flags come up like, what's going on? You're touching my child. Oh, it's just my sister-in-law. It's okay. But still,
chill.
I'm watching you.
It's crazy. And half the people in the hospital is drugged up, and they can't even have like a word to say, if they
exactly. So it's I believe that they're just two different. You can't compare the two because one is a woman that's birthing in captivity that's just been so beaten down that anything goes really. Whereas you were so in your power and so strong both times that it's like, this doesn't fly with me, not with this mama bear.
Yeah. Like I get why like bears and like animals get so like protective. Like at that moment, I was like, wow, like I get it. But again, like, we're animals, right?
We're animals, we're primal, we're wild beings. We've been domesticated, like you said, your cat is. Like we as humans have really been domesticated. And then when you birth in this way, when you have your wild pregnancy, you're just stepping back into your primal nature. That's all it is really. You're just becoming that wild woman that is in our DNA, and you're letting it flourish. You're letting it come to the surface.
Yeah. And then our ancestors did it. Like, wouldn't this would be no society if like
Mm,
our ancestors didn't do it, you know? So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow, Simone, this has just been such a beautiful conversation with you. I'm so grateful that I was your information was passed along to me and we've had this opportunity to talk.
Oh yes, yes. Thank you. And
Right.
again, like I said, I thank you so much and deep in my heart, thank you for even creating this space for
Mm,
women like us, you know, and
mm,
having a dedicated space for women of color. Like birth stories are important,
mhm.
but birth stories of colored people for colored people is
Yeah,
important. So much.
absolutely.
So yeah, so thank you for creating this space. I'm excited for your little one and hearing your story. And yeah, if you know, if there's anything that I can support you with, just obviously just reach out and I'll be here.
Oh, thank you so much. And honestly, it's not without women like you that are willing to share your stories that I could even create this in the first place. So I have so much gratitude for you as well. Um, but the last question I want to ask you before we sign off, if there is a space that you have to share for women who want to reach out to you, pardon, maybe because you birthed in Mexico and a woman is curious of how you did that, how it went about, or just any reason why someone would want to chat with you, how can women get in contact?
Yeah, you can contact me through my Instagram, which is Verbal Roots. Verbal like you're speaking, roots like roots of the tree, or verbalroots.com.
Well, all right, perfect. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Or verbalroots@gmail.com if you want to email me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll have all of that in the show notes, and I'm sure women will want to reach out to you.
Yeah. Reach out anytime. I love it. I love supporting women. A friend of mine, her third baby is deciding to have a free birth and asked me to be there with her. So like unofficial doula or midwife,
Mm,
I don't market myself as like a midwife or doula, but like
mm,
um it's just been through my experience and through my children that I I'm supporting women through this work.
mhm,
So I love it. I enjoy
mm,
it so much. It's like it's the best thing is to see women being so empowered by their
mhm.
work. So
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Oh, wow. Well, your friend is just, oh, I'm so excited for her to have you there, bear witness to her and be that support and be that wise woman that can just really encourage her and let her know that she can do this and her body's not broken and she's a powerful woman.
Yeah.
Thank you, sisters, so much for listening to this episode of the Free Birthing Color podcast. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one in a primal activation session, donate to the podcast, or to have your story featured here or in the blog, go to primalwomanportal.com for all the information to do so. Did you want to connect with our guest speaker? You can find all her information linked within the show notes. And if you have time, please subscribe, write a review, and tell a friend to have a listen so that this podcast and these stories of women birthing in their total power can be shared far and wide. Don't forget to check out the show notes for information on the Earth Daughters Women's Festival, the Breach Without Borders workshop, and much more. New episodes drop every Thursday morning, so stay tuned for the next amazing story to be shared on any platform that you prefer to listen to your podcasts on, or watch these episodes on the Free Birthing in Color YouTube page. And remember, your voice and your story matters. So if you're a woman of color or an Indigenous woman who's had a wild pregnancy and or birth outside of the medical system, submit your story because it's so important that your voice is heard and celebrated in your radical journey of pregnancy, birth, and motherhood.